Today I thought it would be fun to show how to do this cookie with the wisteria leaves and of course the giant rose in the center. So let's begin and I'll show you how to do this. Alright, now we're going to work on our leaves. And for our leaves we need gooseberry green, a little bit of lemon yellow, or vine depending on your preference. Do I have enough gooseberry? I think I do. And we're just going to load like we always load, with half of the green on one side and the yellow on the other, going and grabbing our color as we need it, grabbing our white as we need it. If you find that your food pastes are starting to dry out faster than you would like, or you're taking a little bit more time, you can cover the entire, whether you're working on a foam plate or a palette, you can cover the entire thing with a damp cloth. Just don't let it cover, don't let it touch the paste itself. Like, you want it to lay over it. So for our leaves, we're going to be doing a heart leaf. And if you watched my leaf study, I talked about the heart leaf and how you do it. But the first thing you want to do is put in yourself a guide. So you want a V. You want a V. And a V is not wide open like flying birds. It's a V. So you want to make a nice V, the same kind of V you would if you were writing victory on something. And then you're going to go in with your colors and go 1, 2, 3. Make sure that you have 2 colors on there. Sometimes it takes more than 3. And then, I'm going to try, my husband says I keep getting my finger in the way. You're going to do your scrubbing motion. Now the important thing to remember about the heart leaf is that right there in the center is a magnet. Your brush needs to stay with that magnet. Do you see how my brush is staying with that magnet? And then as I come down, I'm staying with the magnet, I'm coming down into a heart shape, all the way down to my chisel, and yes, I am doing this slow so you can see. And you bring it down. I rolled the brush a little bit, but you don't have to do that. You're going to do the same thing on the left side, and I used to tell people your left side's harder, but for me, and I'm not left-handed, that left side is 10 times easier, and I don't know why. And we come straight down, turn it over, and add a little bit of stem inside. As long as everything is coming towards the middle, you have made a great leaf. And we're going to do another one right here. I'm going to show you that again. And this time I'm going to try not to slip on my hand. Painting in an awkward position, so it's a little bit hard for me, but I want you guys to see this. So I'm going to make my V, and if I didn't mention before, you want the dark, or you can even have the light painting pointing outside, but you want the same color pointing in the same direction on both leaves. So if you decide, I'm going dark, so I have my dark on the outside. So my dark will be on the outside when I flip over to the left. If you decided that you wanted to have your light, oh, I just lifted, excuse me. If you decided that you wanted to have your light on the outside, then your light would be on the outside of both. So you're going to come down, that's much better. And I've got my dark on the other side, and like I said, my left for some reason is easier for me. And you're going to scrub, like you're scrubbing a floor. And come down to a point. And I'm going to fix the other side because as you can see they're not matching up and we don't want that. So what you want is those ripple motions to match. If they're not matching, it's really easy to go back in and redo it. And I can see that they're matching. Everything is going to be fine. I'm coming down onto my chisel to the point. The next thing I'm going to do is with the dark side of my brush just add my stem in. Period. That's it. You've got your heart-shaped leaf. Now I just need to decide where I want that third leaf. And I think I'm going to do a small leaf right here. So I'm going to load my brush up. And I normally would talk about my palette, but I did something to cover my palette because I'm lazy and thought it would be faster to clean it, and I honestly don't like it, so I'm not going to talk about the palette right now. And I think I've mentioned that before, so you must know that I hate what I did. But it was an idea that didn't work. Alright, so now we're going to do the same thing. Make sure your colors are there and set. And just scrub, 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 scrub. Making sure that that magnet, you're not getting out of that magnet. You're coming to the center with each and every scrub until you get to right about here. We are not making long leaves, we're making rose leaves. And the same thing on the other side. 1, 2, 3, make sure they match. They do. And when I say match, that your colors are matching. Sometimes I've accidentally put the wrong side on the outside, so I would accidentally have the light on the outside. By testing it, I'm not going, oh my god, I have to go over this. So, alright, we have our leaves then, we're good. Now we're going to add some wisteria. And we're going to do that with our scruffy brush. And what I like to do, and I'm making a little bit of a purple with some white, I'm going to make a little bit of a guide for myself. I have a tendency to get a little nuts with this wisteria, and I find that instead of making a beautiful looking tornado-y wisteria shape, I've made a blob. So in order to not have a blob, I'm just going to, that's way too much paint, I'm going to just put a dot here, and one here. And I know that I'm not going to go past, this is my triangle, I'm not going to go past that. And then I'm going to put a littler one right here. And if I go over my leaves, that's fine. I'm not worried about that. In fact, I might want to go over the leaf there. But I don't want to go past this little triangle thing that I've made. Now, one of the things about a scruffy brush that you need to remember is that it cannot work wet. So you want to start with a dry scruffy brush. If you've been scruffing with your scruffy brush and you find you've let it sit out for a second, you've gone to do some rose leaves or some rose petals or your leaves, and your brush is tight, you can add a little bit of piping gel to it, which I'm going to do right now to loosen it up. But you do not want your scruffy to be wet, because instead of getting a nice pounce, you'll end up with just a blobby mess. Okay, so we're going to scruff our brush in. And if you've never used a scruffy brush, in fact, that one's just a little bit too goopy, so I'm going to give me a second to reload it. That one was just too goopy for me. And you want half dark and half light. Now I'm working with a very small scruffy. I think it's a 1/8 inch scruffy, which is for a scruffy is extremely small. So loading this brush is going to be different than a normal scruffy. A normal scruffy, you'd put your two colors next to each other, load your dark on one side, your white on the other. With this one, I want you to load your dark all the way up and then add your white on top of it. And if you need to pounce in some more, you can. So we're going to start pouncing, and we're going to kind of keep it in a rounded type triangle. So I don't want you to go straight as far as, when you put your design in it. It's not, we don't want it to look like you made a triangle with your pouncers. I'm going to add a little bit of white in there. Have some definition of color. I just want to make sure that you don't go outside the area that you decided to do. And I said I wanted to go over some of those leaves, so I'm going to do that. Staying within that triangle map. And as you come down towards the bottom, just use the very tip of your scruffy. And that is why I'm using such a small scruffy. If I used a bigger scruffy, I would not be able to make a tip. I would end up having a big bottom mess. And it wouldn't look like a tornado or anything else. It would just look like a big bottom mess. So we're going to do the same thing right here. And if you find that you don't have enough definition in color, you want some of that white to be in there. Because wisterias have color. You could put petals and do your wisteria that way. This is just a real fast, easy way to do it. And this is such a little cookie, I don't think you'd want to add so much detail to it. You just want to have the image of what it's supposed to be. I'm going to come down to the bottom here. I'm just using the very edge of my scruffy and bringing down a tiny, tiny tip. So as you see, it looks like a cyclone, and then it comes down to the point at the bottom. And that's it. Thank you for joining me. So here are the cookies that I made, and they're each a little bit different, same type of design. I ended up changing the color with these two. I felt that was a little bit too pink for the blue. But other than that, just have fun with it. You know, do your own design. I'd love to see what you do, and I hope you learned how to make some beautiful roses.